to another exciting video from Gobbler Ridge Farms. I know they're all exciting, aren't they? And today I'm going to be doing another knife build project. Previously, I did this knife and used bloodwood for the handles. It's made out of 9CR14 MOV. Pretty decent, knife steel and all, but because the carbon content is down around 0.9% of 1% carbon, I'm not sure how it's going to do with striking with flint and or quartz, something like that. I know Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School, he recommends something in very, very high carbon. This has some other elements in it, makes it a little closer to stainless steel. So, and anyway, my wife won't let me go out and play with this one, says it was the first one I ever made. Now, I've got some other knives here. I've got a Concord bush lore, and that's made in 1075 steel, and the carbon content of that is generally around 0.7 of a percent. Can't go maybe as high as 0.8. Generally, you're going to be closer down to the 0.7. So once again, that's the mid carbon type steel. The old Morum. Well, I use this around the farm a lot. Is the Swedish stainless steel. They're cheap, darn near disposable. Matter of fact, my wife and I were putting some plastic around the greenhouse and all today, and use this for cutting plastic and all kinds of stuff. It did better than our scissors and all did. Once again, kind of a stainless steel. Probably not what you really want to have out there, in a survival bushcraft type situation. I do have some knives come from the Survive knives, and this one is in CPM 3V. Now that's a high carbon knife, and this is what I have typically carried around backpacking. But I've gotten to where I would love to have a PLS KO1, just simply because I love the shape of that and the look of the French trade knife. These are a little more modern looking, and CPM 3V, let me tell you, that stuff is bomb proof. Here's another GSO 5.1 that I've got, and this one is the CPM 20 CV, and once again, it's kind of considered to be stainless, and that's a big honking knife right there. So one thing I don't have is a 1095 knife. I wanted to have something to kind of play around with, and the 1095 is 0.95 of a percent carbon. So with that knife, Dave Canterbury recommends that you use a high carbon knife in a survival situation, because you can strike it with flint, you can strike it with quartz, you can strike it on a ferrocerium rod, and I just really didn't have a knife in that particular steel. It's also a good steel for someone that's just beginning into the bladesmithing, and so I'm not going to give you a whole lot of tips on that, because I am a beginner and jack of all trades, master of none. So not going to get into that, but I really wanted a 1095 knife. Now, the other knives that I have there from Survive Knives are very, very thick blades. The Mora is a very nice and thin blade, and this PKS 01 comes in a couple different spines. This one that I have here is 1/8 of an inch. Now, I know Mr. Canterbury recommends for a survival knife that you have one in 3/16, and Dave, I will be buying one of these from you, because I do want a 3/16 as well. But I also wanted to try one that was a little thinner spine for maybe doing some more delicate tasks. And trust me, 1095 steel, it's not the best stuff out there, but I tell you what, there's a ton of knives, a ton of survival knives that are made with 1095 and have been serviceable for years and years. If I was going to go with, I'd love to have an 01 tool steel, kind of knife, but unless you're going to be out there just, prying stuff down with this, if you're using this in normal tasks that you'll be, carving feather sticks, making figure 4 traps, cutting cordage, all those type of things, even batoning's, reasonable wood with this. Not a lot of hickory with a bunch of knots in it or something like that. But if you take care of this knife, this steel here, I think, will serve you well in the woods. The only downside to 1095 steel that everybody says is, oh, you got to take care of it, it'll rust. Some people call that giving it character or a patina. But I regularly oil my knives, and pretty much every time I use them, especially if I have cut anything that has green or moisture content, I keep them pretty well oiled up anyway, so that's not going to be a problem. So in any event, this is my next project, a PKS 01 knife build from Self-Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder Knife Shop. So let's go see how this turns out.
All right, there's the final product, the PSK 01 knife blank in 1/8 inch 1095 high carbon steel. And I know Dave Canterbury likes you to have a 3/16 inch wide spine for a one tool option, but I wanted something a little bit thinner to be toting around on some camping trips, maybe do a few finer tasks and things like that. Like I said earlier in the video, I will be getting a 3/16 because I've really enjoyed this particular knife build. As you can see, it'll baton through wood, still cut paper. It's razor sharp. I've shined mine up a little bit. I still have a ways to go, but I saw just one or two tiny little inclusions. I could probably get those out with a little more work on the blade, but I didn't want to shine it too much, and before I knew it would stand up to a little batoning. I don't do a whole lot of that with my knives. I just want to make sure I get through a couple of sticks before I get it out in the woods, and I'm relying on it. Plenty of other people have gone out and baton an entire cord, it looks like, of firewood. So the way I look at those, they're like the car manufacturer going out and crashing 100 cars through a brick wall so that I don't have to crash the one in my driveway. I'll know it's safe when I get out there. So all I need to do is make sure that mine didn't have some kind of a problem in the forging process. But one of the things I will say about this knife that I like is that Dave Canterbury, before they opened up the Pathfinder Knife Shop, he spent a year going through and refining their processes, sending people out to experienced knife makers before he even sold the first knife. And him and his father are both quality engineers. And when I listened to him talk about opening the knife shop, and he's talking about failure modes and analysis, repeatability of a process, and all that. I thought I'm a Lean Sigma or Six Sigma black belt, and I thought I was back in black belt training. So it's nice to know that he thought through all that and made sure he had a repeatable process. I know that Schrade has, I believe it's the Frontier 13 inch in 1095, and I understand a few years ago they changed some of their heat treating processes, and over I've seen reviews where the blade has broken because with 1095 you don't get the heat treat right, it'll be very brittle and it'll snap on you. And sounds like they didn't, on that particular model, kind of messed up the heat treat or didn't have a consistent repeatable process. So I don't have to beat mine through 15 sticks of firewood. That's basically just to get a fire going with a little small kindling, in my opinion, and only if you don't have an axe handy and are in a situation where everything's wet, you just have to do that. I do know this wood baton, that piece of wood I whacked this thing through it was a hard piece of oak, and was well seasoned and has some knots in it, but it came through there, still razor sharp. It'll do everything a knife will do. It'll slice, it'll cut, it throws sparks off a ferrocerium rod. So that's what a knife is made to do and what it's meant to do. And I feel very good that the Pathfinder Knife Shop, if you look on their website, over and over, about every knife they have is in 1095. And I'm not sure if it's them or Battle Horse Knife that does the PLSK in the 01 tool still, but they pretty much focus on 1095 and maybe 01, so they've become experts at it. I think they've been at it since May of 2015, somewhere along in there. But they've got their process down. They're they're not a shop like Gerber, Schrade, whoever that's out there making knives for the mass market. So they can kind of control their process, and that's why I feel very comfortable with Dave Canterbury's name and reputation and all that on the line, and with their attention to detail, that I feel very good recommending this knife. It's a fun thing. I actually built this one. I didn't order the knife scales. I built this out of wood that I bought myself, and I'm very much looking forward to having this out on I've already had it out a little bit, and but on the taking on a bushcraft overnight camping trip, and so I'm going to give the PSK 01 from the Pathfinder Knife Shop a thumbs up, and recommend this as a buy. All right, that will do it for this video. I got some more playing to do with this thing. Okay, actually I got a couple chores my wife wants me to do in the greenhouse, so oh well. But anyway, I'll see all you turkeys on the next video.